It all started in the 80s. That's right, I'm an Oregon Trail millennial, a zennial, meaning I grew up analog and digital. I remember getting my first Walkman, with a cassette. I also remember begging my mother to have Santa bring me a Discman when CDs became a thing. Upon entering college, I had my very own laptop, which I used to download way too many songs from Napster. Growing up in the 80s, I had Strawberry Shortcake, Rainbow Bright, and She-Ra, all of whom showed me I could do anything. I also had Barbie, who didn't look a lot like me, but had a lot of cool stuff. Like most kids, I wanted cool stuff. The message I took from these dolls was, you can do anything and have cool stuff. And while that message was meaningful, it was incomplete. The complete message, which most influenced me, came from my mother and grandmother. You can do anything and you can have cool stuff as long as you work for it. Whether it's putting food on the table or taking a cool trip to SeaWorld, you can have it and you can do it as long as you work for it. My grandma, Gigi, is an amazing woman. At the tender age of 86, she still travels, dances, and goes to late night dinners. In addition to raising 6 wonderful children, she also worked. She worked right alongside my grandfather in the funeral home where we grew up. She also worked at other companies. In fact, she wanted a job that had not been open to women before and became the first female security guard at United States Steel, the mill in our town. And then there's my mother, her second oldest daughter. Upon graduating college, my mother married and became a housewife. But when I was 5, my parents divorced, and her days as a housewife were over. There was no alimony or child support, and so she began to work. A few years later, she went back to school, got a master's of education, and became a teacher, all while raising 3 kids. And now here I am, living a life I really enjoy, VP at a Fortune 500 company, married to an awesome guy, and raising 2 beautiful boys. Working mothers aren't new. We've been around forever. And whether we are security guards, teachers, or corporate execs, we all have one thing in common. Becoming a mother has made us better workers and leaders. Now I know you might be thinking, hold up, Whitney, I don't know about all that. Women have kids and then get distracted from work. They just don't show up the way they used to. At least that's the narrative used to justify the systemic career disadvantage in pay, perceived competence, and opportunities that working mothers face, what some call the motherhood tax. Research shows that early in our careers, men and women have similar earning potential. But after having children, the pay for women steeply declines and it never goes back to even. Motherhood is a driving force in the gender pay gap. And we are seeing this exacerbated by the pandemic. Economists estimate the pandemic could move the gender pay gap from 81 cents on the dollar to 76 cents. And that it could take 10 years or more to get back to 81 cents. A decade to end up right back in the same inequitable place. What's even more disparaging is that men often make more money once they become a parent. The narrative goes, women have kids and get disengaged and flighty, while men have kids and become more loyal and hardworking. To compound this, the pressure is also put upon women to sacrifice their careers to stay home and take care of children when affordable childcare is not available. This means time lost in the workforce, time lost in earning tenure, building networks, and being available for new roles and promotions. That time is impossible to make up. The motherhood tax is unfair and unjust. The associated narrative is absolutely incorrect. The idea that women should be solely or primarily responsible for the children they bear is flawed. And dads, I'm not even looking at you. I am placing this fully at the feet of society. Because here's the thing. As a society, we need babies. It's how we get humans. And humans keep things going. The Euromonitor boldly stated that the shrinkage of the working age population is the single biggest threat to the economic health of cities. Guess how we get a working age population? Having and raising babies. And yes, we continue to expect women to raise them. It's shown that on average, women participate 60% more in familial and household needs than their male counterparts. And of the parents staying home to take care of children, 90% are women. We expect women to raise babies. We also need women to work. With minimum wage not being a living wage in many areas, dual incomes are required to sustain a reasonable quality of life. And in single-parent homes, that single parent providing for the child is most often a woman. We also need women to round up the volume of workers in the world. About half the global workforce is made up of women. If women leave the workforce, there simply aren't enough men to fill in the gap. And women in the workplace create competitive advantage. Do you know what happens when women work for you? You make more money. According to the consulting firm McKinsey, the most gender diverse companies are 21% more likely to experience above average profitability. We benefit when women raise babies. We benefit when women work in our offices, on our shop floors, in our schools and hospitals. To recap, society has said to us working mothers, we need you to work and we expect you to raise children. But if you do both those things, we aren't going to reward you. We are going to penalize you. And it's odd to me because as the primary caregiver, us mamas develop a set of skills that any organization would envy in its competitors' employees. When I went back to work after maternity leave, I leveled up. I thought that business school would be the key driver in shaping the type of leader I would become. And while it was intense, and I grew immensely through that process, it has nothing on becoming a mother. Motherhood is a true leadership boot camp. When you become responsible for another life, the stakes are high. You can't sit around on the sideline when the going gets tough. I remember once, my husband, my then 4-month-old, and I were on a plane heading to New Orleans, my husband's hometown. The baby was in his own seat, the window seat. I was in the middle, and my husband was on the aisle. The unthinkable happened. Baby boy had a blowout. Poop was everywhere, and we could not ignore it. There was no waiting for the plane to land, and despite all of the concerned looks, no one was coming to our aid. We had to act and act fast. I had already placed all the baby things in arm's reach, and so I picked up the baby, covered his messy back, and as my husband was on the aisle, attempted to pass him our little bundle of poopy joy. The look on my husband's face, sheer terror. Now my husband is and has always been down to parent. He changes diapers, he feeds and bathes the kids. He has never referred to parenting as babysitting. He's a dad. And so that look wasn't about the mess. It was about the fact that we were 30,000 feet in the air and without a proper changing table. We were in uncharted territory. And as he passes the baby back towards me, he says, "You go, I've never done this before." I pass the baby back to him and say, "You go. I've never done this before." So here we are, passing the baby back and forth, and I step up and say, "Fine, I'll do it." I say the right words to get him to clean the car seat. I take the baby, I clean the baby, I change the baby. And that was that. Was it easy? No. Did I figure it out? Yes. Because that is what mamas do. Day in and day out, we figure it out. We are the bearers of grit, tenacity, and solutions. So when I returned to work, I returned stronger. It was hard, don't get me wrong. Being away from my son sucked. Trusting him to the care of a stranger was almost impossible. Missing out on developmental milestones was heartbreaking. I struggled to meet all of the new demands that had been put upon me. How to function when I wasn't sleeping more than 90 minutes at once. How to find time to pump. How to be present at work when I missed my son. How to be present with my son when all I could do was think about a work project. I cried in a bathroom more than once. I struggled and I evolved. Motherhood is resilience. Once, after returning to work from maternity leave, I was in a meeting where high-stakes decisions were being made. A real corporate blowout type of situation. The room dripped with emotion and urgency. Everything was critical. When others would jump into reactive mode, pushing the baby back and forth, trying to figure out how to move through uncharted territory, I would remain calm and centered, ensuring we stayed focused on the big picture and that each voice was heard. Motherhood taught me how to remain calm in a crisis, no matter how messy or unprecedented. People were disheartened, frustrated, and even scared. I was able to say the right words and take the right actions to allow them to feel safe, to inspire them to engagement, and to motivate them to action. Motherhood gave me a whole new understanding of how to communicate based on an individual's needs. The decisions we had to make weren't easy. We were resource constrained and up against immense pressure to drive change. When others would get stuck on a path forward, I would offer up innovative solutions. What I have dubbed the Mama MacGyver effect. As mothers, we must learn to think quickly and use the resources we have around us, even if all we have is a handful of wipes and a tiny airplane bathroom. And let's talk about prioritization, delegation, and empowerment. My son went to bed around 7 p.m. This meant that if I didn't leave work at a decent hour, I would not see him. And so I learned to set boundaries. But that didn't mean getting less done. It meant leveraging others more. It meant empowering my team to level up. It meant delegating work so I could free myself up to work on the areas where I could add the most value. It meant freeing up my team by saying no so that they could work on the areas where they could make the most impact. It meant evolving into a better leader. And the proof is in the pudding. About 18 months after returning to work from maternity leave, I was promoted. I know motherhood made me a stronger leader. I also know that I could not have done this alone. Seeing my mother and grandmother work gave me the confidence to know that it was okay if I worked and not a detriment to my son's life. Because I saw them manage the responsibility of work alongside the responsibility of raising children, while not just staying sane, but also enjoying life, I understood that work-life balance is a myth. I understood that work and life are not two separate things we need to balance, but instead, like a beautiful piece of music, we need to create harmony across all areas of our life. Our jobs, our children, our marriages, relationships, spirituality, and personal development. I also clearly understood that society has set it up where that work-life harmony must be created by the individual. Corporations are still figuring out how to support working mothers. Meanwhile, just like my mother and grandmother, I knew I had to figure out what worked for me and make that work. Having a supportive husband to help pitch in at home and reduce my mental load gave me the space I needed to recover from the stressors of working and momming. And having a boss who did 3 very important things allowed me to shine through the storms created when working and momming collide. He gave me flexibility. He asked about what I needed rather than assumed, and he created a supportive environment. With flexibility, he focused on my outcomes rather than when I got the work done. He never questioned the time I needed to pump, and he allowed me to alter my schedule so that I could attend not only emergencies, but also important moments in my son's life. When it came to my needs, he didn't make assumptions. He asked about what I needed. He never judged those needs, and where he could, he took action to help me. And in creating a supportive environment, he never treated me like a substandard worker simply because I was a mother. He offered me the same opportunities as others. He used his position to ensure that I was never put in a position to be shamed for needing flexibility. He used his power to be kind, to advocate for me, and to shape my day-to-day work experience for the better. A working mother's manager has the power to make or break her ability to thrive. I am hopeful that governments and businesses are on the path to better supporting working mothers. Still, the change required there is slow going. Yet, there's something that can be done right now, today. The partners and managers of working mothers can step up and do what's in their power to support us. Partners can pitch in more at home and help relieve the mental load. Managers can do what's within their span of control to allow for flexibility, to ask rather than assume what the needs of their working mothers are, and they can create supportive work environments. We want to excel at our jobs. We've got the know-how and the will. What we need is your flexibility, advocacy, and support. Send this talk to your HR department and have them ask the managers of women going out on maternity leave to watch it. Share this talk with the manager of a working mother and then have a chat with them about how they can use their power to help keep mothers in the workforce. If you're a working mom, I see you. This life we live is not easy. I am here in solidarity with you. You are strong, you are amazing, and the skills motherhood is developing in you are a benefit to the world. Mamas, partners, managers, let's come together to create a better workplace for us all.